Chris Watkin back again with Glynis Frew, ex-CEO, MD of Hunters, and now Training Development Director for the Property Franchise Group. Glynis, you are the personification of a part-time mum who turned herself into the MD of a large firm. How can you be a mum and an awesome estate agent at the same time? Talk to me.
Well, I was very fortunate because I was given the opportunity to do just that. So when my children were little, I, started with 2 or 3 hours or whatever whilst they were at, school or, nursery. And as they grew up, then I did more and more hours. I was so grateful that I had the opportunity to do a job that was interesting and challenging, but yet I could still fulfil what I felt were my duties with my children. I didn't want to leave them at that stage all day long, in a school. Lots to do. I don't have a problem with that, but it was slightly different for us, I think, at that time.
What advice would you give to any women watching this, and also men as well, because obviously it's their responsibility to allow, if a man's running a company or a divisional director for a corporate, to create those roles. Your brother started the firm and gave you a part-time job. There's hundreds of women watching this. Is it their responsibility to go to their bosses and say, right, I would like children, but I want to do a part-time job? Or is it the responsibility of the male bosses, and I'm making a sweeping statement here, to come up with new opportunities to keep the women happy and fulfilled in their jobs?
Well, do you know what? I actually think it's both. And I think it's both because there are different times in people's lives when something happens that they need in order to be, to fulfill that part of their life. For women at that stage, it may be that they've got children. It could be that, a bit later on, like my husband, for example, his father was very ill and came to live with us. Well, I was a CEO, I couldn't cope with that, but as well. And so he then worked part-time, to do that. I think as far as women are concerned, I think they have every right to say, actually, I need some time at home with the children, I still want to do a good job, but I only want to work part-time. There's lots of different ways that they can do that, because they can work when the children are asleep, they can get up early, they can do all sorts of different things. They can work 2 or 3 hours during the day. And I believe that it is an employer's responsibility to ensure that as far as possible they can make a good working environment for...
certainly COVID has shown that working from home, you can still work from home and do a good job.
Yeah.
And again, I've got a lady that works for me, and most of her work she tends to do at night time. It doesn't have to be done during the day.
No.
Coming on and talking about women, I've spoken to an awful lot of women on this sofa, and they talk something about mum guilt and imposter syndrome as well, saying that we said before that if you put every estate agent in Wembley Stadium, the vast majority of them would be women, but there's not many women at the top. No. You rose to the top.
Yeah.
How did you get over imposter syndrome and mum guilt?
Mum guilt, I think you that just goes with the show. And my daughter now, who's 25, will still remind me of the time when she was 9 and she wasn't very well, and I had to say to her, well, I know that you're going to be looked after, darling, but I've got to go to work today. And she'll still remind me of that because she knows how I felt at the time. But
that sounds like leg pulling now, doesn't it?
I know, exactly. But life is for living, and you owe it to yourself and to other people to make sure that you've given it your best shot.
Okay.
And
what about imposter syndrome?
Imposter syndrome, yeah, I did have imposter syndrome. But again, that's the beauty of working in a team where you matter as individuals and you matter as people.
Okay.
They helped me as much as anything to get over that.
I've often seen women be more manly than men to try and kick on and move up the property, the career ladder Is
Yeah.
that the right thing to do?
No, I would say not, no. I think above all things, you've got to be yourself. Whoever you are, you have to be yourself because that will get you through the tough times as well as the good times.
And do you think that women make better estate agents?
I think women make very, very good managers of people, full stop.
Yes.
Because I think that they, tend to have a bit of a sensitivity. They tend to have a bit of a,
The empathy skills, the
empathy
EQ.
skills, yeah. And I think they're very good at that.
But why do you think there aren't a lot of women in senior roles? And I'm talking more corporate here. Why do you not think? I mean, I know you're not a corporate. I'm talking about the big firms,
Yeah.
your Countrywides. I know they've been bought up by Connells, but there don't seem to be many senior women in the industry. You obviously made it to the top on your own merits. Why do you think that is the case?
I think it is still quite male dominated.
Yes.
And I think that sometimes there is a sort of vested interest in keeping it male dominated. And that's what I think. And I think that, equally from the other side, it is up to women to fight to get there.
I mean, what would your message be to any, young 25, 30-year-old woman estate agent who wants to really crack on? What would what advice would you give to her if you were mentoring her? You had 2 minutes with her and say, right, this is what you need to do.
I would say that you've got to work hard. When I first started working in 79, women had to work twice as hard as men to be taken half as seriously. I don't think it's quite the case now. I don't think it is. But I still think you need to work very hard. You need to be quite vocal, but in terms of putting your ideas forward, people have to notice you. So, you've got to be noticed in the things that you say, and often, actually, in how you dress as well. Make sure that you come across as a person to be taken seriously, because I think if you do, you will be taken seriously.
I agree with you on that point. What could men do better? I'm talking, we've done about bosses. What about if there's husbands watching this that think that they know their wife wants to progress? What would your message be to those?
Well, I think I've been quite lucky. My husband has always supported me in my career. And even, the times when I went through my imposter syndrome and things, he would be like, oh, don't be so daft. But equally, if he thought I was getting a bit above myself, he'd be very quick to sort of...
Didn't he tell you once time to leave the crown at the door?
Yes, he did. Said, leave your crown outside. But I do think it matters to a wife and a mum what the partner says. So I don't think you can, underestimate just how important encouragement is. And even, sharing a bit of the chores and, all that kind of thing. Although my husband worked away during the week, so he couldn't really share the chores, but he would have done. But he was very encouraging. But I think that, I think to encourage, help a bit out, really makes a difference.
Well, I hope you boys and girls have learned something from there. I certainly have. Thank you for your time today, Glynis.
No, thank you very much, Chris. It was great. Thank you.